All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalian from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and the sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Aquas who will believe in this word in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasher Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. This is 2nd Nedrash chapter 6 and verse 27. And it reads, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which hath been so long without fruit shall be declared." All right, and I want to go into a lesson on a statement made in a few of these clips from the recent Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson interview. All right, for brothers who don't know, who may not know, Tucker Carlson used to work for Fox News, and years ago, all right, he actually met up with our elders and apostles. All right, and they went into a few things in the scriptures. They didn't really touch the chariots, but I wanted to touch this just to show that Tucker Carlson actually had an interaction, with our apostles and elders. So it's no surprise that he's on this podcast mentioning the chariots and mentioning how the chariots go back to the scriptures. All right, so without further ado, Lord willing, this is edifying. I'll start here.
Well, or Russian or Chinese. It predates, all of that.
Well, some of it does, right? Like for sure, the Kenneth Arnold sightings, that was really early on. That was like the early 1950s. He was seeing these flying saucers, these discs that were moving over mountains.
Well, right. I mean, the prophet Ezekiel writes about it in the
Right.
first chapter, wheels in the sky.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. Boy, when you
Well,
read
it is
that,
crazy. If you read it, it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And
a wheel
so
within a
and not
wheel.
just, the Hebrew scriptures, like it's all over every
the Vedic texts.
Of course. So these are spiritual phenomenon. There's no evidence they're from another planet. I mean, I think that's the that's the lie, that they're from Mars. Look, space, the atmosphere is really well monitored, right? Both for defense reasons, but also because, like, it'd be nice to know when asteroids are coming. And there's no evidence, has never been any evidence that there are lots of these objects, these vehicles coming into our atmosphere from somewhere else, some other planet. There's no evidence of that at all. So they're from here.
Now, I want to touch something he just said. Now, again, you have to remember that Esau doesn't reveal everything with full transparency, so his idea that there's no evidence that they're coming from somewhere else, we take that with a grain of salt. But we know that the scriptures discuss the chariots far before technology increased in the earth. This is why you have this mention of chariots, of clouds, of pillars. These are ancient men describing something that is beyond their time as far as technology, in a way that makes sense to them. All right, and this is why, for instance, when you go to Exodus, the 13th chapter, and the 21st verse, it says, "And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of a cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people." And this is, as the scriptures say, that the truth is being declared now. The scriptures are being demystified, if you will, because the natural person, when they read certain scriptures like this, they just assumed that it was a fairy tale. But this is ancient men describing technology beyond their time period, to the best of their ability. This is why the missiles are likened unto arrows, and even in today's age, as a sidebar, they call a missing missile or a missing ICBM a broken arrow, So the ancient men were describing something that was beyond the technology of that time. And this is why, Tucker Carlson mentioned Ezekiel, the first chapter. And we'll just get it real quick. This is Ezekiel 1 and 15 says, "Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one will upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, and they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So this is clearly describing a chariot. And now Esau's getting to a point where he can't hide these things anymore from the public. Everyone has access to a phone, everyone has access to basically a camera, even if it's a low grade camera. So now it's to a point where these things can't be held back, and that's why it's beautiful through the spirit that the Lord told us these things in time past. This is why we're not dismayed at the signs of heaven, because we understand what these things are through the Spirit. We understand the will of the Heavenly Father. Now, Lord willing, we be a part of that number. Now, another thing Tucker Carlson mentioned was that these chariots have been mentioned long before this day and age, and I found a site, that kind of just goes over some of the ancient paintings with chariots in them. All right. Now, this site is dudeman.net, so take it with a grain of salt, but I'll just touch some of the images that do have some history behind it. All right, for instance, the baptism of Hamashiach says Fitzwilliam Museum, Cambridge. So this is in the Cambridge Museum, England, painted in 1710 by Flemish artist Art de Gelder. Now let me see if I can find a bigger version of that. Yeah. So with that, you can clearly see it as a chariot. And this is dating back to the 1700s. All right. Another example is this painting called The Crucifixion of Hamashiach, Visoki Dekani Monastery. And I believe this is in Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Slovakia. All right. And this is from, I want to say it was the 1300s. But you can clearly see that there are chariots on either side. As a matter of fact, I think they touched this. Yeah, here we are. So that same image, this is just the information on it. It says the crucifixion hangs above the altar at the Visoki Dekani Monastery in Kosovo, Yugoslavia. It was painted in 1350. And you can clearly see this doesn't look like a little green man. All right. And this shows you that the chariots have always been throughout time. Even when you deal with 70 AD, when you deal with the account of Josephus, when you go into it, there was a report of seeing chariots in the sky. All right, swing low, sweet chariot. When you deal with the transatlantic slave trade and the old Negro spirituals, swing low, sweet chariot, that goes into what? The chariots of the Heavenly Father. All right, as a matter of fact, this is Psalm 68 and 17. It says, the chariots of Yahweh Shai are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai and the holy place. So these things aren't new to us. We've always known about the chariots through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai. But it's only this new day and age where they're considered little green men. All right. Even when you go back to some older paintings from other heritages, I found this one interesting. Let me see if I can find it. So let me see. There was one that I saw that was interesting. So you got this one right here in the 1800s. Says Nankin, China, September 28th, 1890. Drawn by painter Wu Yuhan, one of over 100 gathered on the Shu-Q Bridge to see a red fireball that moved slowly to the east. The UFO faint circle is described as looking like an egg but not shiny. An old man said when the ball appeared, I heard a very loud sound like running man. So this shows you throughout history, there's always been reports. Look at this one. All right, it says the above image comes from the 10th century Tibetan translation of the Sanskrit text. I'm not even going to try that one. Held at a Japanese museum. In the enlargement, you can see two objects that look like hats, but why are they floating in midair? All right. So it shows you the chariots have been throughout history, and it's beautiful through the spirit that the Lord told us, not to be dismayed. All right, real quick, this is Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. This is why they have ancient paintings of hundreds of people gathering to watch a chariot move through the sky. The Lord told us don't be dismayed at that. The beauty of the scriptures is that, the Lord revealed to us really the blueprint, that we have a window in the time, the so-called unknown or unexplainable phenomena has been well known by us as a heritage. All right, this Deuteronomy 29 and 29. The secret things belong unto the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law. Now, I want to touch another point that was made in this video. So it's a very short point. I believe it's around 10:55. So I'll just play it.
Ongoing of reassessing a lot of other things. Like, okay, well, if that was not true, what else is not true? And what else that they told me was a conspiracy theory might actually have some basis in fact. And then someone from, a DOD employee reached out to me and said, actually, there's a ton of evidence that this UFO thing is real. And really? And so I started doing segments on it.
Now, DOD is a government agency. That's the Department of Defense. So, Tucker Carlson's a famous person. He has a lot of resources, if you will, a lot of access to information. So, of course, he didn't reveal the name of the person, but a government employee from the Department of Defense is telling him that UFOs, so-called, are a real phenomena, that the military can't stop it. There's nothing that they can do with it. They can only observe it. There's things that are not physically possible, concerning the things that the chariots are able to do. There was a video a while ago of a chariot being able to a so-called UFO, a chariot disabling a a missile. I want to see if I can pull that up. Let me see. Yeah, I can't find it right now. But yeah, there was a video of a chariot basically disabling a missile. They have reports of chariots arming a nuclear weapon and then disarming it. These are phenomena that they can't explain, and really that's the Lord, terrorizing these Edomites, because with all of the wealth, all of the knowledge, all of the resources that they have, there's still things that they can't explain and they can't imitate. Because Esau bases a lot of his weaponry off of nature, aerodynamics. When you deal with the flight of the bird and the eagle, a lot of his things are based on nature. So to see something that he can't replicate, it has to be tormenting to these Edomites. And that's why the scriptures tell us not to be dismayed at the sons of heaven, because the heathens are dismayed at him. As powerful as Esau would project himself to be, he's actually not as powerful as he puts on. All right. Man, I wish I could find that video. Yeah, I can't find it. But I got a little bit more in this video. I'm gonna start at around 5 minutes. I really want to hit the meat of this video concerning the point, because he made a lot of other points in this interview. I haven't even finished all of it, but he made a lot of points that ultimately go back to the scriptures. And what you find out is that a lot of these so-called truthers, they watch the apostles, the elders, and then they take what they like and then they create a doctrine around it. So they'll never give the credit to Yahweh Shem Shai. They'll never give the credit to the messengers of the Heavenly Father. But they'll take things that they know to be true, and then they'll surround it with fluff. The red pill community does that, and the truther community does that. The prepper community does that. But through the spirit, we're able to look at these things and bring it right back to the source, which is Yahweh Shem Shai. All right, so
Look,
Yeah.
I mean, here's what we do know is that there's enough going on in the skies, but not just the skies, underwater, that the U.S. military has been forced to respond to it. So, like, move aircraft from one place to another because there are too many of these objects in the sky. That's actually happened. Chris Mellon just wrote a long piece about it. So it's real. The government is not controlling it. In fact, it's forcing the government DoD to respond. Um, and we know that there is a real effort and has been underway for a long time to keep the public from knowing about it. But that's all known. That's established. I don't think any rational person would deny that. The question is like, what is it actually? I mean, now is sort of the point where you
Yeah.
have to ask, like, what is this? And um, so that's the
How much of it do you
conversation.
think is ours?
This is
Beautiful. So he hit a point, because now you have to ask the question, what is it? Now that you know that it's not the military in control of it. All right. They're doing things that aren't physically possible. Now you have to answer the question, what is it? And this is why the scriptures are so important. And it's why the beauty of the scriptures is that the Lord has set up the apostles last, as it were, appointed unto death to bring these things out and show that it's always been with us. All right. And it's been in the scriptures. All right. It's these things that have been hid for so long are now being declared. All right. Real quick, this is Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. All right. And when you deal with those chariots, that's going into the what Esau calls the UFOs, man. All right, real quick, this is Daniel chapter 7, and I'm going to jump down to verse 13. And it reads, and I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. The clouds of heaven are the chariots. All right, and this is mentioned all throughout the scriptures. All right, the clouds of heaven, the pillars. Matter of fact, let's see. Beautiful. This is Isaiah chapter 4 and verse 5. And it says, and the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. So in the kingdom of heaven, you're going to see chariots in the sky hovering over the dwelling places of Israel. And it's beautiful because when you deal with us coming out of Egypt, the Lord had that one big chariot, which was Yahweh Shai when you go into it. But in the kingdom, we're all going to have a chariot over our dwelling places. Man, it's beautiful that the scriptures are coming to life in this time and we're able to behold it through the spirit with understanding. Because in this world, these people look at these things and they're dismayed at it. They don't understand it because the world is covered in gross darkness. And even though these things are being told to them and revealed to them, because brothers are going into lessons on all of these things. Our apostles have been talking about these things for decades, yet the world cannot understand, and that's why scriptures say, it's Habakkuk 1:5. Behold ye among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work in your days, which you will not believe, though it be told you. So it's being told to people that these phenomena are the chariots of the Lord. Not only are they the chariots of the Lord, but they're gonna actually be involved in the judgment of Babylon the Great, which is America, because it's not just going to be destroyed with the fire from the ICBM missiles. It's also going to be destroyed from the fire that issues out of these chariots. All right, as a matter of fact, let's go into it. This is a perfect opportunity. This second Ezra chapter 13, and I'll start at 3. Man, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong. Man, let's start it. This is second Ezra 13:1. And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. Because the Lord is going to crack the clouds. When you deal with the sky is likened unto a sea. All right. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth the fire. So that is concentrated fire. All right. And you have to remember, they're describing these things in the ancient world with an ancient mindset. So they're not saying, look, these are laser beams, because in the ancient world, you didn't know what a laser beam was. You didn't know what a missile was. So they're describing advanced technology from an ancient perspective. All right. Now, continuing at verse 5, it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. All right, because again, the skies are likened unto a sea. All right. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew upon it, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight, and yet durst fight. Now, Edger's saying he couldn't even see the end, the where the chariot began and ended. It was so big. So it literally covered the sky to a point where you couldn't see the end of it. And it said that they were afraid and yet durst fight. Because when these people see these things close up, when they see these chariots close up, there's gonna be a certain fearfulness, People fear what they don't understand. So when they see these things and they weren't expecting these things, it's gonna come to their horror, really their dread. And this is why, it's beautiful through the spirit that they're being told these things, but it's gonna have to happen for people to believe it. But this is showing you that the chariots are all throughout the scriptures. All right, I want to finish this out. This is verse 9. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lift up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Yeah, you literally watched millions, if not billions of people just, how frightening that is to watch a million people just get burnt up. This is why the scriptures say they would not believe though it be told them. And these guys, they can't help but come to the conclusion that this is something beyond their comprehension. The government can't hide it anymore. And now we're at a point through the spirit where you got guys like Tucker Carlson, who's supposed to be a truther, so to speak. Now he has to acknowledge that these things are beyond the government's control. He's saying they're spiritual beings. All right. And we know through the spirit that he had contact with our apostles and elders, man. All right. So I just wanted to go through this through the spirit. You know, um, his interview was pretty good. I haven't finished it all, but Lord willing, I want to do another lesson on something else that he touched. But again, with that, Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yahshua Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwat who will believe in this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.